Welcome to this module. We're going to take a look at getting started. Now remember, this isn't part of our objectives for the exam, but it's going to get you up and running with the minimum requirements to be able to run Python. So let's say this is not part of the exam. You'll see when we cover some of our exam objectives, we'll show you the objective number. So everything within the basics is going to be 3002.1, flow 3002.2, in collection 302.3, and functions 302.4. But welcome to your new programming life. You are starting your journey as an accomplished Python programmer. So what do you need? Well, obviously, 6 screens. Try and get that past the boss. But you're going to need Python installed. You need a text editor of some form. Now, simple editors such as Notepad can get you by, but really working with an IDE such as PyCharm from JetBrains or Microsoft Visual Studio Code is going to be a valuable tool. These community editions are free. Another free option is to work with Python modules and Jupyter notebooks. These produce a web page that you can work with, and of course you're going to need a browser to be able to use those. For us, Jupyter notebooks are going to be more than sufficient, but we'll look at different mechanisms to create and manage your Python code. When we look at installing Python, Windows doesn't normally ship with Python installed, so we could install it from Python or from Ninite, and we'll look at both options. You'll also see that from the Microsoft Store, it is possible to get Python, but it will be an earlier version of Python, which we don't really want. On Mac OS, starting with the later versions, Mac OS 12 and Monterey, Python is not included. Earlier versions had Python 2, and again, that's something we want to avoid. Working with a Mac OS, you can install Homebrew, a popular package manager, and install through Homebrew, or you can download from the Python site again. On Linux, most modern Linux distributions are going to ship with Python 3. It's very much at the heart and center of many things in Linux. We can always check that we have got Python installed by checking our Python version. First up, we're going to take a look at installing on Windows. Hello and welcome to our first demonstration. It is really important that you run through these demonstrations because it's this way you're going to get your hands-on experience. Now, if I just try and run Python from the command line of my Windows system, Python is not found, but it opens up the Microsoft Store. And we can see in the Microsoft Store, we have available Python 3.12. Now, whilst that is a reasonably recent version of Python, it's not the latest and greatest. So we probably want to be working with the latest and greatest. So let's move through to our browser and moving through to python.org. We can move to downloads. If we look at Windows, we can see all of the Python releases for Windows. We can see the recent or most recent release is 3.13.0, but we also have older versions as well as pre-release versions that we could work in alpha or beta. Now, we probably don't want to work with those pre-release versions, but why don't we take the latest stable version of 3.13? Now, of course, I could download the installer from here. However, let's take a look at another website. This is one of my favorite websites for Windows software, Ninite.com. From here, we can choose software packages that we want to install. Once we've downloaded the installer, we can use it on other machines, and it's always going to be downloading the most recent version of the product. So if I move through to development tools, we can see that we can get Python 64-bit version 3. But not only this, from the one website, we can also download Microsoft's Visual Studio Code, So an IDE for editing Python. And if we wanted a halfway house between an IDE, full-on editor for Python, and Notepad, we could also download Notepad++. This saves me having to navigate many websites and make sure that I'm downloading the correct and free version that I want. So I can get the Ninite and that downloads. That's just the installer. But then as I go through and start the installer, all three products are going to be installed. So the latest version of Python, the latest version of Notepad++, and of course the latest version of the IDE, Microsoft's Visual Studio Code. So you can see why I like this. The installer as well, I can move on to another machine and run the same installer from another machine. Now that's installed, let me move back to my command prompt and just close down PowerShell. And I'm going to open it up again just to make sure that I'm reading in new path variables that will point to the location of Python. And then from here, I can go through and run Python minus version. And you can see we have indeed got the latest version of Python, Python 3.13.0. So we are up and running with our Python interpreter on Windows.